Hi everyone, welcome back to Face It with Dr. G. I'm Dr. G, and I am here today with this incredible woman, colleague, friend, entrepreneur, author, Audrey Neff, who is beyond amazing. I know she's on so many podcasts and has her own podcast, but I can't wait for you to hear about her. She is published and award-winning peer-reviewed author. She's the frequent contributor of continuing medical education throughout the industry, specifically aesthetics. She's an international speaker and has held faculty positions for over 28 prestigious associations, societies, and medical conferences across the globe. I'm so happy to have you. Welcome.
Hi, Gretchen. It's so good to be here and see your beautiful, glowy face. I feel like you just radiate such positivity anytime I see you. So it's wonderful and an honor to be on your podcast.
It's an honor to have you. And those of you who are listening, Audrey and I became friends, recently closer friends, through aesthetic medical conferences, and these conferences can be very overwhelming if you've experienced them or not, and it's hard to find your true people. And we had a wonderful time at Aesthetic Extender Symposium this past a couple weeks ago in Miami, and really just share everything from entrepreneurial ideas to aesthetic ideas to obviously medical aesthetic platforms, medical software platforms. She's one of the key senior marketing strategists for Patient Now, and we connect on all the levels, as well as we like to have a lot of fun. So
yes.
So tell me, I think a lot of people that listen to this know you because they see you when you're at these conferences. You speak and you're so engaging, and you also are at the Patient Now booth or speaking for them. But how did you didn't start with Patient Now and aesthetics. Did you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Yeah, for sure. My journey into aesthetics was actually an accident. So I fell into the industry at a very young age. I was 22 years old. And my first job in the industry was a job I was certainly very underqualified for. But I got the position at the time, and at age 22, it was a marketing director position, true startup, and it was a marketing agency in this space called Crystal Clear. So that was the initial kind of position that accidentally dropped me into the industry. And I mean, within my first year in aesthetics, I fell in love with this industry. So I was very blessed along the way to have a very, very incredible mentor. To me, his name is Tim Sawyer. A lot of people in the industry probably know him. He's still somewhat in the industry now, but he was a really, really great mentor to me and helped me through so many years of business, public speaking, and all of these things. So I was very blessed to have that on my plate at a very early age. But eventually we were acquired by private equity a couple of years ago, and we merged with Patient Now. So then I took over of Senior Director of Marketing Strategy for the entire portfolio. So we are PE backed with multiple different brands and technologies under our belt now, and it's been wonderful. So all in, I've been in the industry 9 years. Next year in 2025 will be my 10-year anniversary, which I am very excited about. I can't believe it's almost been a decade. We all say that funny saying of, time flies when you're having fun. And that applies here in the last 9 years, because this industry, I love it so much. It's taught me so much. It's continued to evolve and mold me as a person, both personally and professionally. And it's just created the best friendships in the world. Certainly, one to speak to that is certainly my friendship with you, Gretchen, which I am so grateful, truly grateful for, and so glad that our paths crossed. So that's a little bit about kind of what my brief intro of kind of how I landed in the industry.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, you travel all the time, and I think it's something that is attractive to people that are just getting into the industry. And then there's a turning point where
yes,
what's worth traveling for, what's not worth traveling for. How do you dictate and how do you measure your travels and your experiences?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And here's what I'll say. At the beginning, when you start traveling, as we all know, we love it. It's so much fun. It's a great experience. I mean, this industry, if you want to learn and grow and evolve, you have to travel because there's so many conferences and events and things like that, and it's how you network as well. When it comes to the speaking component, which we can certainly get into, everyone starts at the bottom. You have to work your way up. You build your credibility, influence, whatever it may be. Nobody starts at the top. Everybody starts at ground zero. And when you start doing anything, for the most part, you're not going to be the best at it. But if you initially start anything, whether it's business related, whatever it may be, skill set related, whatever it is, we all start at the bottom. So when you're in the growing phase or the starting out phase, something that I always, or it was a motto I kind of lived by, was to just say yes to everything. Even if you don't know how you're going to do it, or even if you feel like you have imposter syndrome and you don't know how you're going to do it, or whatever it may be, my motto was always just say yes and figure it out later. And so when you're in the beginning stages of growing, if we are talking about public speaking and traveling and things like that, it was always say yes, say yes, say yes, say yes. So eventually, years into it, and I've been public speaking for 7 years now. So I didn't start doing it until I was about 2 years into the industry. Believe it or not, I started public speaking at age 24, which is crazy. Wow. But it was something I loved, but you work really hard at it. So now it's come to a point where, and you travel, if not more than I do, Gretchen.
Not anymore.
It's hard. it takes a toll on your body for sure. And I think I've finally come into this stage where I can start saying no to things and start valuing my time a little bit more. So you don't start at that point, though. I want everyone to understand that. If you're in the beginning stage of speaking or whatever it is, traveling to network and learn more about the industry, it's going to be go, go, go. You definitely have to kind of start in that way. You can't be super picky.
I have so many questions you can't be picky, and I think that's a slippery slope too, and I'll go back to that. But when you started at age 22, did you take any public speaking courses? Did you have any mentors for that, or how did you teach yourself? Did you listen to what you were speaking about, re-listen to it?
Yeah, so good question. So 24 was one. So 22 I got into the industry, didn't start public 24. Speaking until 24. But still, that's young. You don't run into a lot of 24-year-olds that are public speaking. So my mentor at the time, who is actually still my mentor today, Tim Sawyer, he was a phenomenal public speaker. And I was blessed to have him mentoring me, that I constantly, in that 2 years leading up to my first public speech and years after that, I got to constantly listen to him. So I learned so much just from listening to him and other speakers in the industry. I never took any courses on public speaking or anything like that. I knew it was something I wanted to do just because I had this passion in me on educating. And obviously at age 24, there was only one thing I was speaking on at that time. Now, fast forward 7 years, there's multiple different topics and courses and things like that I teach. But everyone starts at the bottom. You start small and you build your way. But yeah, no public speaking courses. Something I will add is you learn by doing. So the more you do anything, any skill, any craft, any art, whatever it is, whether it's speaking, injecting, I'm not an injector, but you learn by doing. So the more times you do something, you will eventually refine your skills and get better. I did.
Can I say something though? Can I say something? I'm just going to interrupt because it's hard so I've started asking people to give me honest, real, raw feedback afterwards and break me down and break me apart, because it's hard. You think you said one thing and that you come across a certain way. It's actually not that way. So I encourage people to ask others as well. Tell me, analyze this for me. Yeah. Yep.
Totally true. I love feedback from people, and I'm the same way. I'm like, tear me apart. I don't really care. Because that's how we learn from each other, because we need perspective and feedback from other people so that we can continue to get better. So I totally agree with that, Gretchen. I love constructive criticism, especially from my peers. I value that. I respect that. I want that. I want you to say, you should have tried doing this. And there have been times, in the industry where, Mark Tager's, obviously he's a big, figure in the industry, and he teaches public speaking. And there have been times where he's pulled me aside and he, told me something of a word I was saying a lot. And I never even thought about that, because when I'm on stage, I'm just speaking, my mind's going a million miles an hour. And sometimes you're not always thinking about if you're reusing a word or you have a crutch word and things like that. So I love getting feedback. That's another great point, Gretchen. I think that's something that we should all welcome, and don't get butthurt about it. It's a good thing. That's how you learn, is getting feedback. And
I think that there's a difference between, you're encouraged to tell a story, right? People do want to get up there and they want to just talk about facts, specifically when it comes to science, and you want to turn this into some sort of story, relate to people on a personal level, engage them right off the bat. They're not going to fall asleep, but you also have to create the content that's worth their while. So how do you blend those together? And I think there are several courses out there. I almost went to one that's a weekend course on public speaking. And the people that attend these are obviously not just people in our field. They create a living by public speaking. And, these people read a lot, how to create the vocabulary to be engaging on stage. And it's all about your placement, your body placement, your hand placement. Do you deliberately try to take a drink of water? Everything should be staged to a point. To make you really effective. But I think it does take work. And even if you are baseline and naturally a good speaker, I've realized, because I thought I was a good speaker, I danced, I've been on stage, I know how to do that, but you can always be better. And so you had this incredible mentor, Tim Sawyer. Do you mentor people? Because I would like to be mentored by you.
I have.
But do you mentor people?
It's something I certainly want to do more of. I've had a lot of people come up to me and, say, I really admire the way you public speak. And I have one episode I think I've done in the past with a good friend of mine, John Wheeler, and it was about public speaking, and we were just breaking down our tips and tricks. And I received so many kind messages after that episode, which this episode was well over a year old, probably at this point. So it's something I certainly would love to do more of, because whenever I have had people come up to me and they're like, this is my first public speech, and maybe it's in the same track of myself speaking with someone, and I get so excited for them. I'm like, I am so excited to hear you speak. I make sure I sit there if I know it's their first talk, and I'll stay there in the audience, and I'll approach them after, and I'll be like, that was amazing. You just crushed your first public talk. Think of this, that's a milestone for you. So it's something I really, really love. And actually there was, I have a funny story. So recently I was at a conference this past year, and I was speaking, and I was running to the restroom before the track, and I ran into someone who was in the track before, and she stopped me in my track. She's like, oh my God, you're Audrey Neff. And I'm like, yeah, hi, who are you? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous to speak, and I'm speaking in the track with you next, and it's my first public speech ever, and I'm terrified because I saw your name was on it, and you're a professional public speaker. And when she said that, I felt totally caught off guard, because I don't view myself that way at all. It's just, in my opinion, my MO is just to educate and bring what little things I can to the table. And I remember being like, no. I was like, trust me, I'm not you'll crush it. You'll get up there. Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter if there's people in the track that have been doing this longer than you, because we all started at that exact point that you are starting at today. And I remember I kind of talked her off the edge a little bit, because she was really nervous. I was like, you have nothing to be nervous about. You're going to crush it. It's going to be amazing. And I love seeing when people do their first public speech, because I remember going back to age 24 when I first did mine, and I was so nervous. And I remember the feeling of feeling really kind of just accomplished, even though it was a little thing at the time. It's a really good feeling to do something that you have imposter syndrome of doing, and then you accomplish it. So it is something I would love to mentor people with public speaking. I've thought about creating coaching courses. I think it's something I'll certainly be doing in the near future due to a lot of requests from people. So it's a good question, Gretchen, because that's something I actually think you should absolutely love doing.
You would love it, but why don't you just start a Patreon? Start easy. It could be small, everybody would promote it, and you can get on there and just little tiny clips every week or whatever, and that would get you into, and then you can get more extensive mentorship opportunities through that. But I think that would be phenomenal, and you obviously are so excited just talking about it. which is awesome.
I love that tip. I'm writing that down and I'll probably do it now. So thank you.
Do it.
For the encouragement and the idea.
Yeah. I mean, you film, you're on stage, you're doing all this, you have the content to create a Patreon. I mean, just do it. And I think that's what I realized. I kept filming and doing all of these things, social media, on Instagram all the time. It's like, let's create a more cohesive network community that, has more from that. It's not just on Instagram. So I think you should totally do it. I can help you. Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Yeah, please do. Let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rach can help you. Rachel runs all of my life.
Perfect.
With Patreon. So when you talk about imposter syndrome, we all throw this word around now and we all struggle with it from 1% to 99%, right? And how do you deal with it? Because I do believe that a healthy percentage of imposter syndrome pushes you to be your next best. So how do you personally deal with it?
Yeah. So I am at a point now where I thrive in it. I love imposter syndrome. I think obviously we don't start there. We start when we do start doing things that we've never done before, or we put ourselves in an uncomfortable situation, and whether it's speaking or not, or related to something else, we can get in our heads a little bit. And I think once you start doing things like that more often, you start becoming more comfortable with it. So now I think I've come to this stage where I absolutely love feeling like an imposter, because something I've learned
that
over
sounds so crazy,
specifically
though.
The last 7 years. It does. But something I've learned are my years of highest growth or opportunities given to me that I would have never thought in a million years would ever be an opportunity for myself have come from the years where I put myself in the most uncomfortable situations and continue to do that. And that's how you learn. That's how you grow. That's how you expand your skill set. I mean, it's cliche, but like we all talk about how like if you're not, or if you're comfortable and you're staying stagnant, like you're not going to grow. So for those of us who are ambitious, you are certainly one of those people, and you're certainly a woman who I look up to. And Gretchen, you are so inspiring to me, truly. I don't know how you do all the things you do, honestly. You're like a superwoman, to be honest.
You're so sweet.
But being uncomfortable is a really good thing. And I think once you start doing that more often, you start learning that, and then you start thriving in it. So now it's gotten to this point where I love it. I love imposter syndrome. If I'm perfectly content and comfortable and 110% confident in everything I'm doing, then I'm not growing. I'm not learning. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you would agree with that too. I'd be curious to hear your insight onto that too. But I'm in a place where I love being an imposter.
I love that. I think it also teaches you a lot about yourself, right? So my biggest challenges are then obviously my biggest powers, and I think that translates to a lot of people. But what we feel we don't know, or maybe what we're most insecure about, is what is going to transform or change somebody else's life and the way they think. And so something that's been hard for me though is imposter syndrome when it comes to more so to dermatopathology and how nobody cares, nobody wants to hear about dermatopathology and aesthetics, which is 100% wrong. But it's imposter syndrome with that, but then also perfectionism. And so if you're an imposter, but you're also a perfectionist, that can be paralyzing. And how do you work on that, right? Well, I don't know it all, and I want to be perfect. So where do I live? And so for the past, 10, 15 years, those are things that I've worked on. And the beauty is in the messiness, right? There's a better way to say that. But nobody likes people that are perfect. They're boring. They're uninteresting. We don't want to hear what they have to say because they're perfect already. So I think that there's a beautiful relationship between all of those, and how do you deal with them? And I think my connection just went out. Sorry. I think we just got a little bit, that's okay, just a little hiccup.
It's okay. I didn't know whose end it was.
It doesn't matter. We're talking about perfectionism, and this doesn't have to be perfect. This stuff happens. So,
Good.
And I think, I see this with other people that I mentor and that are growing in their aesthetic practices. They don't want to post on social media because they don't know enough, or they want their post to be perfect, or their wall doesn't look perfect on their Instagram. By the way, you can delete posts, and by the way, you can archive posts. It doesn't have to be perfect. People like, seeing the process. I just posted recently on my story my trunk. It's like, this is the life I have right now. Like, it is a mess sometimes, or all the time. So I think that's really helpful for people, Audrey, for you to share. And, as you grow and as you ask for feedback from people, it helps everyone, right? So that's beautiful. I guess another question I have for you is, I know that there have been hurdles for you, and I know there's been hurdles for everyone, but was there a moment in time in your public speaking career that a light bulb went off, that you were like, oh, I'm really good now? Like, something just happened on stage. Is there a memorable moment of like, okay, I got this?
No, that's a good question.
You don't have to have one. You don't have to have one.
Yeah, I don't think there was ever like one moment where, oh, okay, I'm good at this, because I think I'm a humble person, so I don't like saying like I'm good at that. Like, I think I'm a decent public speaker, but I can always get better. And I think we all have our own speaking styles as well. And so actually going back to, how you kind of talked about posting on social media and not being perfect and showing your true authentic self, I think when it comes to public speaking, we should be doing the exact same thing. Instead of trying to copy how someone else public speaks, you need to figure out what works for you and what you're the most comfortable with. So I think in the years I grew the most with public speaking was when I really kind of almost took a step back and just let my personality of who I am come through during my presentations and public speaking engagements and lectures and things like that, because now I have a very defined speaking style, and not everyone may like it, and that's okay. I think something else we need to come to the realization of is not every single person in a room you're speaking to is going to like you. I'm sure there are plenty of people that don't like the way you're wording certain things, don't like your demeanor, don't like how I'm a very casual public speaker. Now, I keep it professional. I'm not swearing or anything like that, but like, I'm very casual. I like cracking jokes. I like making people laugh. I like asking questions. If someone raises their hand, I'll stop the talk if time permits and just get to the question right then and there. So I have a very go with the flow type of casual speaking style. I don't want it sounding rehearsed. I don't want it sound like I'm reading from a script. I really just kind of like going with the flow, which you can do when you know your content so much, you can do that. I think if in any public speaking engagement, if you need to go off a script, then you don't know the material well enough and you probably shouldn't be speaking on it. So I think once I really just honed into embracing who I am and what my personality is, I think those were the years where I became so comfortable with public speaking, because I'm just okay being the person I am. And I'm okay if some people don't like my speaking style. I think once you reach that point, I think that's kind of when you know who you are, and people gravitate towards that too. I have people that come up to me after talks and they're like, I just love your personality. I love the way you do things. And so when you get that, obviously validation is nice, but we always want to grow and evolve and get better. But I just like knowing that your vibe attracts your tribe too, which is another term, we all say in the industry, but it's really, really true. You're going to engage with the people that like your speaking style, and they're the people that are going to come to your speaking engagements. Not everyone probably likes my content either, so I have pretty niche content I speak on that not everyone talks about. So I don't know, I guess that's a very multifaceted question, but I think once you become really comfortable with just knowing who you are as a person, and I think once you reach that level, and then also knowing that it's not about you either, it's about helping people. Like, it's not about me, it's not the Audrey show if I'm on stage. It's about me providing content to people in hopes that I can help people improve little aspects of their business in the niche areas and topics that I speak in. So I think also knowing that it's not about you, it's about helping people too. That's what fuels my fire, is just helping people.
Yeah, it's so good. And you're going to help people with your new Patreon. We're going to do that like tomorrow, or maybe today.
I hope.
So when it comes to that, because that makes sense, right? And it makes sense that you need to know who you are and you need to be comfortable on stage. I actually find it harder to be casual and joke, not saying that, the other is easy, but when you're nervous, you freeze up and you're not as fluid on stage. You don't feel comfortable, and knowing the material is obviously number one. I know I'm the most nervous when I'm reading a deck that's a company's deck, that I'm like, oh, do I say that word? Do I not say that word? Even being CME accredited, you can't say certain words. And if you say them, okay, whatever, you say a cuss word real quick and they're like, oh, move on. Don't, you didn't hear that. But when it comes to presenting yourself visually, when you said that you are casual, you never look casual. You always look absolutely gorgeously perfect and so put together, but your personality and your smile just creates this energy where people want to be around you. But casual, okay, so do you have a specific way you want to present yourself? Do you wear dresses or skirts on stage, or is it always just pants? Yeah. How do you determine how you want to present yourself?
Yeah, I want to present myself, and that's a great question, as very approachable is how I would put it. I don't want to seem in any way, shape, or form intimidating, or that I know more than you. I don't like that at all. I want to just be approachable. So I think that's what I try to come off as being while I am public speaking. Am I there to provide, speak on the educational courses that I'm there to teach? Yes, absolutely. But I also like to have fun with it too. And sometimes it is like pulling teeth to get the audience to engage with you, whether it's questions or, you crack a joke and then no one laughs. But it's fun. And I think people really appreciate when you're really just transparent and relatable and authentic. And so my whole thing is I just want to come off as very, very approachable, so that when I get down from the stage and, the track has ended, that people are totally fine just coming up to me and asking me questions. So I just want to seem like I'm everyone's friend, and that I just want to help you, and that I'm not this super professional. Do I dress professional? Yes, absolutely. I'm not up there looking like a slob, but I mean, just like in the manner that I'm speaking, I just want you to think like I'm your friend. So that's kind of my style, and it works for me. So that I want to dig a little deeper there. Is there a reason why? So did you feel like other people in your life before were not approachable, or do you feel that you didn't have that resource? Because it sounds like you had a mentor who helped you a lot, but I know in my life I didn't have any mentors in the aesthetic space, only in the dermatopathology space, and had to figure it all out myself. And so what do I do now? I love giving back. I love giving people everything that I've created and everything that I've learned. But why do you want to be approachable? That's a good question. And no one's ever asked me that before. I like this episode, Gretchen. We're diving into some cool things here I've probably never even talked about. I think if I think about it, why do I want to feel really approachable is because of probably how young of an age I started public speaking and how out of place I felt. And I don't want anyone to ever feel out of place. So I think that's probably where it stems from, is because I started public speaking at such a young age. And I know how that felt, feeling totally out of place in a conference track, because I'm the youngest person. I'm still the youngest person, to be honest, in a lot of tracks I speak in. To be honest, I'm 31 now. But I think going back to that, I just never wanted even if you're an audience member, I just never wanted to feel out of place, or not, or someone else to feel out of place or not approachable. So I think that's where it stems from, is just because I started at such a young age, and I remember just feeling so just imposter syndrome. Yes. So I think that's where that stemmed from, is humble beginnings, I guess, in a public speaking manner, if you will, just because I started so young. And I don't know. I want people to feel like they can approach me and that I'm not there to talk about myself. It's not about me. I want to always stay humble. I think all of us should always stay humble. I think some people, public speaking can either go one of two ways for them. I think in some cases people, there can be an ego that can start to build after time when you become a very influential global speaker, let's say, and I never wanted to ever be in that spot. Even though I am, I do speak globally and internationally now, I never feel like I never feel like I have an ego. Like I just feel so blessed and grateful for these opportunities. And so I just always want to remind everyone that no matter how big you think you are or how big you get, always stay grounded in your roots, and always stay humble, because at the end of the day, we're all people and it's a small industry. And I think that you should just always be really kind and nice and a good person. And I don't even know if that answered your question. I probably got off track here.
But I have
just
so
how
many. I have so many more questions now, Audrey. So it's very obvious that you want to give back, and it's exactly what you just said, right? You want other people to know kind of how you started. You don't want them to have to go through that alone, and you're like, I'm going to be here and help you. And the irony of the whole thing is we see the same people on stage every single time at every single conference, and we actually love new people, new energy, new interest, new knowledge. And two people can get up there and say the same exact thing, the same concept in different ways, and you learn something. And a new, innovative, bright, fresh approach to a concept is usually what creates the science. It creates the research opportunities, because I use this phrase a lot, but it's called blind faithfulness, where we just believe something. We just continue to be parrots. We just repeat the same phrase over and over again without actually thinking about what we're saying and trying to say it in a different way, maybe because we have imposter syndrome. But you obviously have a passion around, showing people where you came from and how you started, and allowing them to, hold their hand or whatever that may be. The other thing I want to bring up is ego. And ego is very healthy when it's maintained in a certain place. Everyone's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But I want to hear your thoughts and how you feel about this, because as a female, and as a female physician, for me and you as a female lead marketing strategist with one of the big companies, do you agree that there are different standards when it comes to being on stage and what people's baseline initial perception of you is? And does that make you almost feel as though you have to compensate, be somebody different at the beginning, right? I want my audience to see me. I want them to take me seriously. I know I'm a woman, and obviously you're so beautiful, right? And being on stage and being this beautiful blonde, you're brilliant, and you want people to know it. So how do you feel about that?
It's a good question too. I think at the beginning, it takes a long time for people to take you seriously. If you're young, okay. I think at the beginning it was a lot harder to build credibility and or influence and a personal brand, even if we want to call it that, because being such a young person at the time, it takes a while for people to take you seriously. I think it took years, to be honest, for people to take me seriously. And I'm totally okay with that, because once again, I'm starting at the bottom, and you work your way up, and you build credibility over time, you build trust, you build an influence, whatever it may be. So when we start talking about ego, I think there is a difference between having an ego and being confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. So confidence you develop over time. I don't think it's something that you develop initially out of the blue. In my case, I would say it took years for me to develop full confidence in being a public speaker and being so bought into the person I am and what I can bring to the table, which once again, at the end of the day, I just want to help people. It's not about me. It's not the Audrey Neff show. So I think it takes a while to build your credibility. In my case, because I'm not an injector, I'm not a provider, I don't own a practice. I come from a different perspective of working with tons and tons of different practices over the years, and being on the business side and being on the industry and the marketing side and all of these things. So I don't even remember what your question was, but I think it was around ego and confidence. So I mean, I could babble on for hours, and then my brain goes in a million directions.
I think that in our field, and it was very hard for me to verbalize this because the field is female heavy when it comes to nurse practitioners and registered nurses and physician associates, but when it comes to medical doctors, females are the minority, and it's still run by men that think, the man is the MD. And so as a physician and a female and someone who likes to speak and give my voice to people, it was challenging. It put me in a different headspace. And I'm finally able to now be more vocal about it's not equal. It's not equal opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's not equal opportunity when it comes from industry, right? So the pharmaceutical companies and all of those, and you can mark my word, I think that we're paid differently when it comes to that, and at some point it needs to be equal. But I think females have to work in a different way and put on a different face to get to the same place the male does. And I wish I didn't have to say that, but it's true. So that's all.
It's totally true. I very much agree with that. I hope one day the playing field levels out a little bit. But I think at the same time, it's really empowering to be a woman too. Like something I love about this industry, another, reason number 2,000,005 why I love this industry is on the aesthetic side. It's especially in the med spa space, it's driven by females. And I think it's such an exciting time. Like if we talk about growth and trajectory of the aesthetic industry, it's female driven, to be honest. Like men, they play a big part of it, absolutely. But what's really fueling the majority of growth is females and female providers. So I think it's a really exciting time for all women in this space too.
I totally agree with you. So what, you have so many incredible talents, and I know you're really active. You love to, hike and work out all the time, and you're so fit. And then you obviously work. And now you have this other passion that's flourishing over here with your mentorship and guidance and education and public speaking. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years or the next 5 years?
That's a great question. And that's something I'm, to be completely honest with you, I'm still figuring it out. It's something I think about every single day, because there will be a point where, we're PE backed and there will be another equity event here in the next 24 months, let's call it. So what will I do beyond that? I have a couple of different things I'm noodling with. So I guess we'll have to do another episode when that event comes. But I'm definitely not leaving the industry. I fully intend 110% I'll be in this industry until the day I die. I'm not going to leave it. I want to continue to play, if I can play a very small part in helping practices, providers, aspiring young professionals, whatever it may be in the medical aesthetic landscape, that's something I certainly am here to do, and I'm not going anywhere. So there's a couple of different things I'm noodling with of what will be the next journey for me. So that's a great question with not a definitive answer, but the one answer will be I'm staying in this industry, and I'm not going anywhere.
That's good. I love that. Do you believe that, how do you think you'll make that decision, right? And I guess that brings me to another question of, do you believe in being lucky? Do you believe in luck?
So I don't. I believe in working hard. So I think it was you I was talking to about this, I think at AES in Miami. Something that drives me crazy is when people say, you are so lucky you get to do X, Y, Z. I don't have many pet peeves, and that is one of them, because the people that say that are the people that have no idea how much hard freaking work it took to get to that spot. Oh, you are so lucky you get to go speak in Paris. You are so lucky you get to do X, Y, Z. It's like, okay, so you see these things at the very top, and what you don't see are the 7 years of hard work to get you to that point. So I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work and perseverance and grit and constantly wanting to be a forever student of life and grow as an individual. Of course, are there some people out there that get things handed to them? Could that be considered lucky? Sure. But if we want to talk about going from ground zero and starting with nothing to building something worthwhile, whether it's like you with your multi-location practices, your training academy, like you have all of these things that you do. And from the outside looking in, people could be like, oh, Gretchen's so lucky. She's so lucky. But like, no. What they don't see is all of this hard work and balance and time away from family, late nights, early mornings, all of these things, the things that people don't see of what gets you there. So I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work, and whatever you want in life, you can do it if you put your mind to it. So I really dislike when people, and the people that say you're lucky are always the people that are not doing what you're doing, because you'll never have someone more successful than you say, oh, you're so lucky. Like, no. That doesn't happen. So yeah, I don't believe in luck. I believe in hard work.
Did I tell you about the Luck Factor book? Did we get to that point or no?
I don't think so.
So you should read it. It's called The Luck Factor. And again, based on the premise that we aren't lucky individuals and that everything we do every day of our lives creates the ability to ultimately be lucky. And is that the relationships we build? Is that the people we connect with? Is that the trips we take? Which is exactly how you're living your life, right? You've sacrificed a lot. You travel all the time to a point where it compromised your health. And, you know, I was curious how you were going to go with your answer, because, and it gives me goosebumps, is a part of me feels you're very, very lucky in a personal different way. You know, work is a certain mentality and a certain part of this, but your health, right?
Yeah.
Was a big scare. And
yeah.
And so, so I was interested in what you were going to say.
Yeah, if I could add to that too, on the personal note. So I don't think there's luck in business. I think, you know, you get what you work for, unless you get something handed down to you. On the personal note with my health, lucky for sure. I prefer the term blessed. It is how I feel. I think everything, you know, I'm a person of faith, and I strongly believe that I was blessed in recovery and outcome that I had. So for those of us listening to this podcast, I'm sure most people know by now, but a couple of months ago I had a hemorrhagic stroke. It's called a subarachnoid hemorrhage. And the stats are like, it's like only 15 in 100 people come out of them alive with no brain damage. It's a very, very low percentage. 50% die instantly. Then of the remaining 50%, a third make it to the hospital and die. A third survive with permanent brain damage, and a third no brain damage, normal function, which ends up being like, I think it's like 12 to 15 out of 100, which is crazy. So in that regard, blessed beyond words. I will never wake up another morning and like the gratitude you just have for life and really simple, tiny things that you would never be grateful for. My perspective on everything has changed. So in that regard, yes, very lucky. The term I would prefer to use is probably I just feel really blessed. So whatever God's plan for me is, I know it's not finished since I am still here on this planet. So very grateful to be here. So yeah, in that regard, I would say I feel blessed.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that, and I think I agree with you. I think that it's those things that stop us in our tracks, obviously, literally, emotionally, figuratively, and change our life forever. So, yeah. So, okay, talking about books, do you have a favorite book? It could be a marketing book or an advertising book, but what have you read? Because I need some new ones, and I'm curious.
There's a lot of good books out there. I would say some of my two favorite business books. I love From Good to Great, Jim Collins, and The E-Myth Revisited. So those, I think, are two kind of staples. They taught me a lot. And there's a million, honestly, I have a list of a million business books I still need to read. I need to get back into reading because it's something I used to do a lot. But those are probably two of my favorite books. I've read them each probably about 2 or 3 times. So those are two books I think every business owner should absolutely read. I feel like those are fundamentally really good staple books. And they put a lot in simple terms, and it's easy to digest.
Love that. Yeah, I think, and if we tie it all together when it comes to public speaking and it comes to reading, I was never a big reader when I was in grade school. I had too much energy. I didn't want to sit and read. I wanted to be outside and play and everything. But I do believe that my vocabulary not struggled, it just wasn't as developed with all these big, beautiful words. And I would play games with myself. Okay, I'm going to read about one word today that I don't know what it means. But when I actually got to the point where I could sit down and read, my vocabulary was enhanced. And I think that also translates and goes into public speaking. You want to sound educated. You want to sound eloquent in your words. So, and get good ideas. So I do believe reading is great. And yeah, we don't have time, but that's what Audible's for. That's what podcasts are for.
Mm-hmm. Yes, love podcasts too.
Yeah,
lots of good ones out there for sure.
So where are you off to next? What's the next big adventure?
Yeah, definitely. So this weekend I will be headed up to your neck of the woods. Even though I know you'll be at Aesthetic next, I will be speaking and emceeing the Vibe event, which is the annual conference of the American IV Association. So all things vitamin infusion, IV therapy, wellness, peptides, things like that. So I have a close relationship with that association. I've been emceeing their events for a couple of years now. It's a lot of fun, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And then, what else is coming up? I do a lot of speaking for Sinclair as well. So they have some Sinclair College workshops coming up. And then I will be speaking for MERS Aesthetics in Greece, which I'm really excited about in October. So those are kind of my next couple of events that I have coming up here.
It's so awesome. I love it. I love it so much. Well, thank you so much. This was amazing. Tell everybody how they can reach out to you. Maybe Instagram would be great.
Yeah, Instagram for sure. It's at Audrey Neff _ I wish I could get rid of that underscore, but someone has my handle name. So at Audrey Neff _ and then I'm really active on LinkedIn too. So those are my 2 platforms of choice.
Love that. I love that so much. This was awesome. We'll have to do maybe podcast number 2, episode number 2 to continue. But thank you for taking the time, and I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you, Gretchen. Love you dearly, immensely. Thank you for having me on the podcast. You'll be coming on mine next, so we'll definitely be having a fun conversation there. But I'm really grateful for our friendship, and you really are an inspiration to me. I learned so much from you, so I'm really, really grateful that we were able to become close friends.
I agree. And for everybody listening or watching, thank you for tuning in, and like, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time.